Welcome back to the Bernard Lee Poker Show. Can't believe it. 15th anniversary. And we are kicking it off with another gentleman who is celebrating an anniversary as well. I can't believe that it's been 15 years for me. I can't believe it's 5 years for this gentleman. In 2017, he outlasted a field of 7,221 players to capture the World Series of Poker's main event and win $8.15 million, beating out Dan Ott and Benjamin Pollock. Of course, that year also had John Hesp, Antoine Saoud, who made his second WSOP main event final table, Brian Piccolo, Damian Salas, who has since won the main event, Jack Sinclair, and of course, another person, Ben Lamb. An incredible year in 2017, a memorable one, and it was truly memorable to have this gentleman win it. Welcome back to the show, good friend, Scott Blumstein. Scott, thanks for joining us here and to celebrate your 5th and my 15th anniversary, my friend.
Yeah, always good to be back. Thanks for having me as always. And man, they're not joking around when they say time flies, eh, Bernard? I know. It's
right.
And 5 years feels like a blur. I can only imagine what 15 years feels like.
Right. But I mean, it is truly amazing, right? 5 years have gone by from your victory. Again, this final table was really one that was incredibly memorable. And as I said, if you look backwards in time, look at the players on here. Some of them repeat people. Other ones have made their mark. Other ones have won it. Damian Salas won the kind of mixed split, the online live version of it over Joe Hebert at the final. An incredible final table. Looking back, first, what real strong memories do you have of that final table?
Well, yeah, real quick, just to talk about it more. I mean, it was a really interesting dynamic, I think, because you had two people that made their, second final table and third top 25 finish, right, with a lot of experience. You had a couple players like Ben Pollock who had, some high roller experience, another, just a veteran player. And then you had four people who it was their first main event ever. Me, Dan Ott, John Hesp, and Jack Sinclair. It was our first main event. So you kind of have this weird spectrum of experience and zero experience. And so it was cool. But I mean, as far as memories go, I just the whole thing is overall, right? I mean, just being at the table that I watched since I was a kid, and such a surreal experience, and obviously getting to play with a guy like John Hesp, who just made everything light and just fun. I mean, I guess that jacket is probably the answer. John Hesp jacket.
That's right.
Because it was, it was like, what? I was like, this is everyone. People are usually in a nice suit or a sports jersey, and this guy's in a Technicolor jacket. I'm like, this is weird, but it was great. Just everything you could think it would be,
Right. It was, like you said, an incredible scenario with regards to this final table. You and John Hesp went in with over 100 big blinds each and really kind of captivated this audience, and the other players all were around 25 to 30 big blinds. And, obviously you guys ruled the roost, but didn't start off perfectly for you. Actually, John Hesp took over the chip lead for a while and was going well. What kind of goes through your mind? Because, we all dream about it. And I think a lot of players who are listening to this show have experienced it, hopefully have experienced going into a final table with the chip lead, even if it's a turbo event, it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. But you go in with that final table and you have these expectations, right? You're like, oh, I'm the chip leader, I'm going to win this thing, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously to become the chip leader, more often than not, things are going your way. But then the most important final table of your life doesn't really start out perfectly. How do you kind of keep that, calm? Because easily we've seen it. People have just blown up, and now next thing you know, you're out in 6th or 7th place.
Yeah, it's scary. It really is a little
Right.
scary. Yeah, obviously, right. Expectations going in is seeing, like you said, in past, chip leading doesn't really mean all that much. I mean, you can easily get 8th and 9th if you make the wrong move, or you play too big of a pot, or you get coolered, right? I mean, there's things out of your control that can happen that can weigh. So I just did a good job of really not thinking about it too much, just like the best way to avoid disappointment is to not have expectations in the first place, right? So just kind of going in and just trying to treat it like a normal poker tournament, and understanding that the levels are just ridiculously long, especially as you get, shorter handed, and there's a couple people knock out. Now you're 7-handed for 2 hours, it's just, you have a lot of time. And yeah, it didn't go perfect right away. I mean, I definitely felt myself slipping a little bit at times. And, that's kind of when I reached down, and either obviously that hand versus John, where I, had the aces and he had ace 10, and the ace came on the flop and a 10 on the turn. So, it was definitely nice to cooler the guy who you were competing with. But I also knew that, having a little bit more experience than John, and just, I just wanted to just be patient and just kind of let the game. And, the jumps are so big, right? I mean, laddering isn't the worst thing either, even if you feel yourself slipping, right? Even if I'm losing my lead to John, it's like, well, you're still in second, right? You still can let other people cannibalize themselves and maybe pick off a short stack at some point. So just treating it like a poker tournament and letting it come to you.
Going into the final table, you had a day off, right? I mean, like in some worlds now, they don't have that day off. They just go right into it. Recently, they were supposed to have a day off last year, but because they added an extra day to try to get some people over from Europe during relieving the COVID restrictions, now there was no day off. How important was that day off for you? Because I know that, going in and playing that many days, it's just, people don't realize it, how mentally exhausting this is. It's just so draining. Was it critical for you to have that day off?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it was really an interesting thing too, because I was the first year that there was no November 9, right? So every year before me for the last decade or so had months off, right? I mean, literally, you make the final table, and it's the end of a journey. You celebrate, you take that picture, and then you go home and figure out what you're going to do the next couple of weeks,
and
right?
People would go home and get training and everything. I mean, completely crazy things, right?
You can do whatever you want. Some people would go sip Mai Tais on a beach if they wanted to, and but either way, you got to kind of relax. So yeah, I had 2 days off, which was interesting too, because look, they were off days, but they were like, you got to be at the Rio tomorrow at noon to do interviews and
pictures and everything, right?
Yeah. So like, okay, this is kind of a day off. I mean, I still gotta, but yes, just to be able to decompose a little bit. And it's funny, I remember like showing up to the Rio for like the photo shoots and everything, and seeing the other guys from the final table there, and being able to just like have a little bit of a normal conversation. It was a little bit more of a relaxed vibe in there, and made some friendships and stuff. So I think it was really important for me. Then the year later, the next year with Tony Miles and John Sin's final table, and I had become friendly with Tony Miles through that process. He had a question, he reached out, and and it was cool to have a little bit of a rooting interest. And I just remember like they had no time, and I just like, dude, these guys are tired, man. Like you're not to play your best poker. Look, it's such a it's only a mental game, right? There is no other aspect to it other than decision. You can't change the cards with your ability. You can't change the chips with your ability. So it's kind of stupid to have the world championship of one of the biggest mental games on earth being decided with people just drained out of,
Exhausted, right.
Yeah. So,
well, I also think the other thing is that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for you to be at this final table, and for you not to have your family and friends there. Give them a day. Like, think about it, people. You end potentially, a lot of times you will end that final table and burst that final table bubble at 1, 2 in the morning Pacific time.
Yep.
That's if you're East Coast, forget Europe, right? That's impossible. But even East Coast, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. Now you got to tell them, hey, by the way, jump on a flight right now because you got to jump on that 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning flight to get in by noon or 1 o'clock so you can come watch me play at 5 or 6. Give them a day just so that at least family and friends can come in if they are so desired. And I think if you give them a day, they'll figure it out. And so to me, it's those two things. Just give everyone a day to decompress and then also get people in. When you had those 2 days, what, you have now the opportunity to talk strategy, to talk with people. And you had a lot of great, you're originally from, you live in Las Vegas now, but you're originally from New Jersey, and you had a lot of East Coast people who were in touch with you, et cetera. One person who actually got me in touch with you, my Run Good teammate, Jamie Kerstetter. Obviously people now, amazingly back then, Jamie wasn't on the coverage, so people didn't know who Jamie was. Now everyone knows who Jamie is. Obviously, like I said, she was a Run Good teammate, so I knew who she was, and she was a great player back then. And now she's doing such phenomenal commentary beyond just her Twitterverse. But what did you do? Did you talk it over with the Jamies of the world and other people? Who was in your inner circle that you talked for those couple of days?
Well, you're right. Yeah, it was so important to have that window to get family and friends out. I mean, that you're right. That's a great point. And then, the one caveat that was interesting too was that my year was the first year they kind of moved the main event up in the actual WSOP itself. So the only saving grace for me was that there was a couple events afterwards. Last event of the whole series, right? So I still had my poker friends were still out there.
Right. They didn't all just take off because they were out of the event. Right.
Like to happen, right? Everyone told these. So it couldn't have worked out perfectly. A lot of my poker friends were still out there. A couple East Coast friends and my family came out. So that was nice. But yeah, other than that, just using that time, as optimally as I can, right? To kind of, ironically enough, the I wasn't the best student in the world, let's say, right? So I have a lot of practice in cramming before the night before. So
I love it.
It's like old me bringing out the textbook, like using definitions. So yeah, we Jamie was a great help. My buddy Chris Horder was a help, and that we just kind of we weighed our options. We were going to bring in a coach. We talked to a couple people. Some of their prices were pretty reasonable, but at the end of the day, I got lucky. I was friends with this guy, Ben Lavelle, who was friends with this another Run Good guy. I think you might know, Benjamin Reasons.
Of course.
So he's a super smart guy, and I knew that they had a lot of experience playing sit and goes. Right? I mean, that's the thing about a tournament player is the times that you're shorthanded is almost non-existent. The only time you're shorthanded is when you're at a final table, ironically enough, right? And they're hard to make. So, I have a ton of experience four-handed, three-handed, and heads up. So we kind of brought them in as Singo players they're playing shorthanded all the time, and they had some charts and some advice, and I just crammed these charts and just was like, okay, like try to remember it as best as possible. Queen 3 is you gotta play it, right? You can't just fold. So how do I play Queen 3 offsuit? And I just kind of tried to come up with the best strategy I could, and I think I was able to do that. So, and it was good too, because like you said, with 2 months off, everyone can study for as long as possible. So I think it worked to my advantage, being able to kind of just pop as much info in my head as possible in a short window and go from there.
Right. And like you said, that's the real thing. Like so many people are, plugging away and really trying to like get new information. But, with that not in place, you really have that advantage because you have these people who are there and your thing. Let's talk about that hand. And, everyone has talked about it in this unbelievable hand. Let's just kind of go through it really quickly. And I'd love to kind of understand your thought process with it, because John Hesp, as you said, really got off to a great start. He was well over 100 million. You had fallen back a little bit in those ranks. You raised originally to 2.2 million under the gun. It folded around to John Hesp in the big blind, and he called and went to the flop. And the flop was ace of clubs, 7 of diamonds, 5 of hearts. You both checked. The turn hit the 10 of spades. So complete rainbow. Hesp taps the felt again. You make it 3 million. Hesp now check raises to 7 million. At that point, and we'll go through your thought process, but at that point, you know that he probably has some kind of hand. You re-raise to 17 million. Hesp gets out of his chair and walks away from the table, which in my opinion was a little bit dicey. Like, you're not really supposed to do that, but I know it's the final table, and John didn't mean anything by it. Got up, came back, sat back down, and announced, I'm all in. You snap call. He flips over ace 10. He turned to top 2. You flopped a set. You go nuts, walk away, come back and realize, oh my God, he's got top 2. He's drawing dead. 3 of clubs, meaningless river. You double up to 156 million. He's now down to 24 million. That's the hand. So I've just described the hand to everyone. If people don't remember it, go on YouTube. You'll see it. It's everywhere. Trust me. Kind of go through the hand with me in your mind of how you play it out. You raise with aces under the gun. You must be like, please somebody call. And of course, everyone is just mucking in turn. And, you're just sitting there going, oh, good God, this is really going to happen, isn't it?
Well, that's poker. I mean, that's the thing. Every poker player knows this exact feeling, right?
Right.
It's one of the most sick. Getting aces is literally the most sickening feelings in the world, right? Because you know that this is what you play for. I mean, this is what you, right? You got the best hand,
right?
And you also know that you have 2 of the aces, so it's less likely someone else has an ace, right? It's like, how are they ever going to get more chips in the middle unless they get a good hand, right? So So yeah, I mean, I raised under the gun, and I remember the other thing too, like you said, I mean, everyone kind of had between like 20 and 30 big blinds besides and John and maybe one other person. So it's like, okay, give them a hand to wake up with. Maybe they shove all in,
right.
It folds to Brian Piccoli on the button. I remember, he tanked for maybe 50 seconds. I mean, longer than normal tank.
Right.
And I ended up having Queen Jack suited, and he made a disciplined fold and let it go. And so I remember thinking like, that was my chance, right? You don't expect. And then John defends his big blind, which is reasonable. I was obviously hoping at that point you'll take it, right? The worst thing you can do is fold.
Right.
So he calls, the flop. I flop top set, pretty good. But again, how can he have anything, right? It's like
100%.
Maybe as a 7, you get 1 bet, 2 bets on the river if he burns 2 pair. So I decided to check back, hopefully he has nothing and hits a pair and I can get 2 streets and move on,
Right.
And the turn brings a 10, an offsuit again. Nothing beats me. I got the nuts right now. Pretty good spot. He checks. All right. Yeah, obviously. I bet small, just hoping that he has a 10. Just have king 10, right?
Right. Have something.
Exactly.
Right.
And he raises. And like you said, I mean, that's when my brain just is like, how
do I get more? How do I get more? How do I get more? How do I get more?
Normally, my default here would be to call, right? Playing against someone who studied, it's like, even if he has a set, I can probably still get a lot of, maybe all of it on the river anyway. And if he has 6-8 suited or something and decides to get tricky with a bluff, but I decided to just go for it, and I just made it 17 million, hoping he somehow had a set, I guess, or 2-10-7 or something, and he, like you said, got out of his chair, did that spin. I was like, please don't kill his hand. Please don't kill his
Right. Seriously. Like, you're just like, go, John, sit back down, please.
Right.
Just sit back down.
Imagine the floor just comes over like your hand.
Right. Be like, oh, nope, he's dead. And, he gets so upset. And then later on sees the tape going like, oh my God, thank God,
Oh yeah. And then I obviously I knew I probably got it pretty good. I went out, I came back and I saw he had 0%.
Yeah. So obviously you didn't see his hand, and then you had to come back, right?
But I assumed, I mean, the only hand that has it, if he somehow had king, queen, I guess he has 4. It's going to be hard to have 2 outlets, right?
Right.
But and then I kind of, it was a little bit of an egregious yell celebration. People had their opinions on it, but I knew what it meant, right? I knew what it meant. It meant 150 million in the main event with 8 people left, and to get it in. It's so rare in poker to just get it in with the other person.
He's dead. Dead.
Yeah, exactly. So just
I think you were very gracious afterward. You went over to John, you gave him a hug. I'm so sorry, etc. And listen, the people say it all the time. I don't think you were ill-willed about it. You were excited about that kind of thing. I've been criticized for my celebrations way back when, but I think that people just don't until you lived in that moment. You basically right there have locked up about $4 million with that hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really basically what's happened. And you are, I don't know what, you can look at the percentages or whatever. You're probably a 25%. I mean, there's still 8 people left. So there's a lot of play left, but you're probably about a 25% favorite to win this thing, right?
Maybe it's not that high, but it was
high. The reason I put 25 is that if it's absolutely equal for everyone, it's 12.5%. And I just said you have a double chance of that with your chip lead at that point. I think 25% is fair.
Probably accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. So, I mean, incredible. Hey, give John Hesp a lot of credit too. This guy battled back. He wasn't like, okay, I just give up and I'm done. They knocked out 2 players, and at the end of it all, he wasn't even the short stack, right? I mean, when you guys finished up the night, there were 7 players coming back. You had 50% of the chips in play, which is incredible. 50%, 178 million, right? Benjamin Pollock had 77 million. So he has 22. So combined, you two have almost 3/4 of the chips in play. Brian Pacholi has 10% of the chips. And then John Hesp is next.
Yeah.
Right? He had 3 other players below him. Also give Dan on a lot of credit for coming all the way back, because he was one of the short stacks there, and he came back to finish runner up. But unbelievable that happens. Now you go into day 2. Obviously this is a massive chip lead. Like, you have more than double the guy who's in second. You have as much chips as the entire table together. What does the brain trust discuss at this point? Is it don't screw up and at least lock in third, or is it, hey, listen, they all are afraid, put your metal to the metal, go for it, or wait till the short stacks are out before you start 3? Like, what kind of was the thought process? Because obviously there's a lot of stuff that can be going on.
Yeah, it's actually interesting, right? Because there's 2 different schools of thought when it comes to spots like this, right? There's the camp that wants to just put the pedal to the metal, like you said, and just run over everyone because they need to fold to ladder up. And
right.
I think that's a good strategy. And I just try to find the right balance, right? Because the problem with that strategy is if you make the miss, I had Ben Pollock on my left, on my 2 to my left. So he has, he can hurt me. I mean, if he gets a double through me to get to 140 and that he has more than me, it's going to be tough to win now, right? Because he's a great player and he's got position on me. So you can't I didn't want to just like go too crazy, because I didn't want to they have to catch up to me, right? That's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, I think I my goal was always to play for the win. I know it's a little cliche, but I wasn't too concerned with laddering and whatnot. But I think I just wanted to find the right balance and gear of just, stealing pots when I could without making it look like I was playing too many hands, and just sticking to my game, right? I mean, why change it up? Like, you have so long to navigate through this. And just in general, my strategy with a big stack in poker tournaments is simple. They need to catch up to me, like I got these chips. I'm going to protect them. Like, it's it. I don't need their 2 big blinds everywhere. It's nice, but you still want to play solid pre-flop ranges and just have hands with good equity, and just try to win pots over time and let them let them battle each other out. And then, if you get to 3-handed with the chip lead, that's all you can ask for. So,
right. And it just really, like you said, incredible scenario, slowly playing it through, making sure you get your opportunities. You guys come back day 2, and it wasn't that long of a day 2 because so many players were short stacked. You guys didn't drag it out all the way, and you got down to 3 players, and it was pretty straightforward. I think, like I said, it happened. You got down there. You 3 went into the next day. You had, again, another commanding lead to about 2/3 of the chips. Dan Ott had 88 million. Benjamin Pollock had 46 million. You had 226 million. Like I said, Benjamin Pollock, very experienced player. Dan Ott, rookie like yourself. It must be an unbelievable feeling at this moment. Like, oh my God, this could be a real, I mean, you have a really good chance to at least go heads up, right? I mean, you have a really good shot at that point to go heads up. Obviously things can happen, but you now know that you have a really good shot at going heads up for this title. And amazingly, when it happens, when you get there, you had a shot it would have been the first time in history to knock out 2 players to win it. No, it's never happened before that there was actually triple all in a call with 3 players left.
yeah.
An incredible scenario in and of itself, right?
Yeah. And then I lost to both of them.
I know, crazy.
Yeah,
with the best hand going in,
Exactly.
hand going in.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's poker, baby.
It's why I don't, we call it C5. Me and my boys call it C5, right? When you get it all in pre-flop, and I hate C5, Bernard. It's just, I didn't even want to call ace queen there. I'm like, but I knew I had to, and ended up losing to both of them. But it was good because Ben got knocked out on that hand. Dan knocked, technically, but Dan triples up now, and now it's a match, right? So,
right.
It would have been cool to win that way, obviously, just for a lot of reasons, just ending the
would have
tournament.
saved a lot of time too. I mean, you guys played heads up a decent amount. It wasn't like 1 or 2 hands. Just so everyone knows, Benjamin Pollock moved all in for 35 million on the button. Dan Ott moves all in himself from the small blind with 45.8 million. And you wake up in the big blind with ace queen.
Yep.
And we saw it. Like, if you watch the tape, I see what's going through your head. You're like, can I? It wasn't, do I call here? It was, do I really fold here? Like, how can I fold?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
It was. I'm telling you, it was more like, damn it, I have to call here.
Right. Like, oh my gosh. I know, it's nuts. You guys flip it all over, and like you said, you are ahead. You have Benjamin Pollock dominated, and you are ahead of Dan Ott. The flop comes King Jack 3. Obviously, Dan takes a massive lead, but you do have not only the ace, but you have now the bottom end of Broadway for the 10. Obviously, Benjamin has one of those 10s, so now it's only 3 of those 10s. Turn is blank, knocking out Pollock. He takes home 3.5 million. You guys are both guaranteed 4.7, battling for 8.1. I mean, holy cow. It was definitely one of those scenarios. You have a 2-1 chip lead here, but this thing drags out now for a lot longer than obviously it could have, right? It could have been just over right there. Did you feel going into beyond the 2-1 chip lead, right? Did you have a lot of experience heads up that you felt confident, or you had said you didn't have much shorthanded, but did you have much heads up? And if not, then were you like, oh God, I hope I play this well?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, why would I play heads up, right? I mean, I won a couple poker tournaments in my life, but maybe a couple seconds. But other than that, no. I mean, I think like I said, I did a good job of just like looking at these charts and trying to understand what the charts are trying to accomplish. I mean, just understanding to use blockers and stuff pre-flop to, bigger sizings, to use them as 3-bet, when to use them as 3-bet bluffs, when to call, and just kind of, fake it until you make it. I did get lucky, I think, getting to play Dan. I mean, again, not that to slate his play or anything, but he also like didn't have that much experience either.
Right.
I mean, he was my age, he played a little bit online, and I just don't think that he was studied in heads up either. And, and so yeah, it was, I think it was a good I think it was a good match. I mean, I think if you go back and watch it, if the stacks were closer to even, that might have been a sick battle.
Right.
Two guys who really don't know what's going on, but are going to, play their game. And I think we both played pretty good, all things considered. So
you guys played for a while. You played like, I think over 60 some odd hands and played for a few hours. I mean, like you said, you were fortunate that you had this chip lead. You just kind of really just chopped them down. He finally got it all in with King 9 versus your 6s, and he beats you. Now it's 64 million to 300 million. And then you get it all in again, Ace 8 versus Ace Deuce. If he wins this thing, this is now back to what it was to start heads up play. 3 hours just gone. You're fortunate that you hit your deuce on the river, and now you are World Series main event champion. What is it like for that moment of what everyone looks at, the piles, the bricks of $100 bills, and this diamond encrusted bracelet where you can hold it over your head? Like, just kind of describe the moment from your perspective, because everyone else dreams of what it is. You lived the dream. You actually did it.
Yeah, it's surreal. I don't know if people want to hear this or not, but it's one of those things where you still have to execute, right? Like it really was a lot of energy and mental focus to do this for 3 days straight,
right.
A couple every night. Like you said, that last night was long. I mean, that was a long night for 3 of us. I mean, it took a while to get Ben out. Then you have to play heads up. You're in every hand. You're not, you don't get any, when you're full ring, you can fold and take some time to delete. But no, it heads up. You're in every
heads up. Hands are coming like this, and it's like shuffle, full, go. Shuffle, go. I mean, this isn't like.
No, you got to play 90% of them, right? You got to play 80. It's like you're in every hand, and so yeah, I think the first feeling was just kind of like relief.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Wave of relief, like wow, it's over. It's been 14 days, it's a grind. So I was a little tired, but just being able to just realize what just happened, letting it hit you maybe a couple hours later, and just like being overwhelmed with emotion later. But in the moment, it was weird. It was like an out of body experience almost, you don't even, I just kind of, it just happened. And then you kind of decompose, and boom, out of nowhere, it just hits you like, wow, you just won the main event, so it's,
you joined this fraternity, and eventually will no longer be only a fraternity. I'm sure that a woman will win it one day, but you joined this elite fraternity right now, and you are in the world of poker immortal, right? I mean, you've now one of those people that will live on forever as the World Series main event champion, and it's an incredible scenario. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Scott about what he's been doing since. 5 years ago, we just talked about all those memories, but what has Scott been doing since then? I saw him recently playing in Turning Stone at the WSOP circuit, saw him registering, shot out of my seat and ran over to him and said hi to my buddy. But let's see what he has when we return here as we celebrate not only Scott's 5th anniversary of his main event win, but we are celebrating the 15th anniversary of the Bernard Lee Poker Show.